Booyah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. I have said many times, and I'll say it again just for clarification. It doesn't matter who I support in politics. I will always, 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 anytime they slip up, anytime there's um, anything to question our leaders. Because if we don't question our leaders, well, this is how we end up in the current situation like we're in with Justin Trudeau, where our country is essentially broken, policies go unchecked, and people lose out in the end. The common person who's working their 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, as it seems to be these days, in order to pay their bills, they're not represented properly, and they lose out in the end. Well, Danielle Smith, having an interview earlier this week that really makes me beg to ask the question, what was she thinking? Now, when it comes to federal politics, Danielle has pushed back multiple times against the federal government, which I'm very proud of. She's instilled policies that I think are fantastic, especially those in protecting Albertans that was recently installed from speaking their minds, from not being persecuted at their jobs, for being allowed to voice their opinions. Danielle is definitely a champion of free speech and one who is more libertarian, I find, sometimes than conservative, or I should say conservative with libertarian style views. But one of the things she stated in her latest press conference, it makes me question what is going on here when it comes to federal politics. Because while we've taken the federal government to the Supreme Court, while we're challenging them again, and Danielle again threatening to challenge Justin Trudeau in federal court over certain bills that are being passed, Danielle sat in an interview recently. I shouldn't say press conference, it was an interview. And I'm going to kind of lay the groundwork here, and then we're going to take a listen to what Danielle Smith had to say. Bob Blaone tweeting out here, Danielle Smith, or Blaone, sorry, tweeting out, Danielle Smith has asked the question, do you think Albertans are looking for an earlier federal election? Absolutely we are. We all are. Danielle not only avoids answering the question, she takes her support for the Liberal government to the next level by saying, I have a couple good relationships with some federal ministers who I think are real champions of our province, like Crystia Freeland, for instance. She worked with us on the carbon capture utilization storage, has been very helpful of getting a couple of major projects to the finish line, like Dow Chemical. And she goes on. Again, why are we propping up Chrystia Freeland, Danielle? I'd really like to know. Now, before I get all crazy here, I want to stress that sometimes in politics, and from what I've seen in my time around politicians, yes, you have to play the long game. You have to be generous when it comes to your words. You can't always be picking fights, so to speak, especially when a lot of these bills that the federal government are pushing on the provinces need to have some kind of workability in order for provinces like Alberta to continue pumping out their products as much as they can to market. So I don't know if this is Danielle trying to secure a little bit of niceness, if that's even a word, to get work done, or if she's really supportive of Chrystia Freeland. The tweet goes on to say Alberta taxpayers have 1.8 billion plus their share in Canadian taxpayers' $400 million portion of the direct grant printed debt to a net zero carbon capture carbon tax funded climate change fraud scheme. Again, the Green Slush Fund is right out there in the open for everybody to see. Who's opposed to all of the above? I am. This message is not about pointing the finger at one or two politicians, premier or prime minister, or to suggest a leadership review or election will solve anything. This message is to point out that 100% fact, Alberta's UCP government, NDP opposition, Canada's Conservative, Liberal, NDP, Green, Bloc governments and oppositions are all guilty of betraying Albertans and Canadians, all of them. The uniparty establishment and their technocratic agenda must be opposed simultaneously, says Bob. Now, here is the excerpt from Danielle Smith. Again, it begs the question: what are we doing here? What are you thinking? I can tell you right now that I do speak with Premier Smith off and on. I will definitely be bringing this up to her the next time we're talking. Because again, why are we championing people that freeze bank accounts? Danielle's been anti-lockdowns ever since she became leader of the province. Yet she's championing cackling Chrystia Freeland, who froze Canadians' bank accounts, who was all pro lockdowns. She's responsible for destroying this country. I'm willing to bet she's one of the compromised 11 MPs with China. Let's take a listen.
Final question. There was a recent poll out saying many Canadians want to face a federal election this year as opposed to waiting till 2025. Do you feel like Albertans are looking for an earlier federal election?
I think we would be looking for an immediate change in the Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault. I have a couple of good relationships with some federal ministers who I think are real champions of our province. Like Crystia Freeland, for instance, she worked with us on carbon capture, utilization and storage. Philippe Francois Champagne has been very helpful on getting a couple of major projects to the finish line, like Dow Chemical, de Havilland, and the Air Products hydrogen. So I would say that there are some ministers that we can work with.
Final question. There was a recent poll out.
So she not only gives credit to Crystia Freeland, but also Minister Champagne, who hates Alberta. Why are we brown-nosing federal MPs who seek to destroy not only our country, but Alberta, its sovereignty, everything that Danielle Smith claims to stand for? It begs the question, why? I never like making these kind of videos because, again, I have been a supporter of Danielle Smith. I quite like her stance on the majority of things that she's been bringing to this province. I champion a lot of what she's done and is still trying to do for this province. But I do have to question, when it's out there in the open like this, what is really going on? Which Danielle are we getting? What is Danielle's true opinions? Why are we being generous to these pigs at a trough, these WEF-run MPs that are compromised? Danielle Smith has said multiple times she doesn't stand with the World Economic Forum, yet Crystia Freeland has a seat on their board. Why are I'm speechless. I can't keep asking the same question. I know you guys are getting sick of it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Again, I don't mean to try and tarnish Danielle's reputation. I don't want to make her look terrible, but again, if we don't question these things, if we don't question our leaders, when they make massive errors like this, if they go unchecked, this is how we end up in similar situations like we do with our federal government. I shudder to think what's going to happen in our next provincial election if Naheed Nenshi gets in and destroys this province. Because if you think Danielle, and I know there's people in my comment section who have negative opinions about Danielle, but if you think Danielle does some bad things or some questionable things, Naheed Nenshi is going to obliterate this province if he gets in. That's a scary thought. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments if it's your first time here. I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure as you're clicking that button, you click your bell for notifications. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, my live streaming show where I sit down with my beautiful wife, Mrs. Fringe. We go over everything that's happened this week in politics, everything coming up in the week ahead, and some back and forth within our communities. It's always great to hear what you guys have to say outside of making these videos, and my wife and I both look forward to chatting with you guys each and every Friday night here on the channel, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, every Friday night. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, or at least the content in this video, and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.